What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the HG Sports Podcast. It is January 17th, 2020, and I'm going to be 100% upfront and honest with you guys straight out the gates. And I kind of procrastinated. Not procrastinated. I got sidetracked a little bit this week on the episode and putting it out. I was working on a couple other scripts for the off season, and I kind of put this one off for this week, which was a bad idea because now, unfortunately, we're going to have a shorter episode than we usually do. We're only going to have one game recap, and my predictions are going to be a lot smaller. They're going to be a lot faster. I don't have a whole lot more to say on them than I usually do, just because other than just instead of just putting out nothing, I can put out something. It's going to be a little shorter. It's going to suck, I know, but I will have something, a big, long prediction and preview for the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. Since I do have the extra week for the Pro Bowl, I'll be able to work on that and really go in depth. I'll go over matchups for each one of the skill positions and give you guys an in-depth analysis of each team. So you can look forward to that in the meantime. And like I said, I am working on a couple scripts for the off season. So you might be saying what's going to happen to the podcast as soon as football season's over. Well, football season really never is over. We have free agency. Then I'm gonna make either a big board or a first round draft predictions and see what college kids are gonna go where. So either one, I'm not sure which one I am gonna do. And if it is a big board, it's not gonna be a really big board. I mean, we're talking about maybe 50 guys. I'm not gonna do 100 or anything crazy like that. I am only one person compared to some of the other bigger networks and YouTube channels who do have other people to possibly make 100 to 200 person list for this. So you do have that to look forward to in the off season. And like I said, the Super Bowl prediction will be coming soon. I do have an extra week on that, but instead of wasting more time, let's go ahead and just get right into this. And we're going to go ahead, and the game we're going to recap is the Chiefs versus the Texans. And to start this game off, at first glance, it was really a disaster for the Chiefs. So I'm going to kind of go over that a little bit. One touchdown for Houston on a blown coverage that I believe really won't happen 8 times out of 10. The safety and the corner both bit on the screenplay. It was a design screenplay, but they ended up throwing it over the top because the safety and the corner were both trying to predict it instead of just playing what they were supposed to play. And I don't think that's going to happen 8 times out of 10. I think they got lucky right there. On the next Chiefs possession, Travis Kelce, that is, dropped a pass that would have been a first down, but instead they had to go for the punt. And since they had to punt it, then the punt was blocked. Then they picked it up. They scored the ball. On the next drive for the Chiefs, there was another drop for a first down, which made them once again punt. Luckily, no block punt that time. On the next drive for Houston, it really felt like the first drive of the game. It was very similar to the Week 6 matchup. That's what it kind of felt like in October. Run the ball heavy, drain the clock, keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. Kansas City did do enough to stop them on this drive and force a punt, and once again, bad luck for Kansas City as they muffed the punt. And if you don't know what muffed means, it basically just means they fumbled the punt. Houston recovers, and then in the next couple of plays, they proceed to score another touchdown. Each team then gets one more possession. Kansas City does nothing on theirs. They obviously get the ball first because Houston scored. Then Houston kicks a field goal, so they're down by 24-0 at this point. I'm going to stop right there. I'm not going to go over the whole game, but I'm going to stop there because that's where the craziness kind of starts for Kansas City. And I want to tell you that everything that happened in the first quarter and some change was probably the best thing that could have happened to the Chiefs in this game. It forced them to constantly pass the ball to catch up. And at that point, when they did catch up, Andy Reid has finally learned from his playoff mistakes in the past, and he kept the gas pedal to the floor, and he never let up. If you don't know Andy Reid's pass on the playoffs and his mistakes, he has gotten up early, and then he's very, very, very conservative with the clock and with the ball, and the other team will end up coming back and beating them. If you want an example, look up the Colts versus the Chiefs game a couple years back. Alex Smith was quarterback for the Chiefs, and Andrew Luck was the quarterback for the Colts, and it was one of the most crazy comebacks that I think anyone has ever seen. So that's just kind of a little bit of his past, but he finally learned from it this time around. He just pedaled to the metal. Let's keep going. Let's not let up. And that's what they did. And I think Houston had a similar game plan to how they beat them in week 6, and we got kind of a little glimpse of that in that one drive. Heavy run, keeping Patrick Mahomes and this offense off the field, and Kansas City has a major weakness in defending the run this year. Huge weakness, probably the biggest weakness on their entire team. And if you were listening to my podcast last week, I did say that it could be a big problem for them. And it probably would have been a closer game and a lower scoring game if it wasn't for the beginning sequence of this playoff game. Honestly, I think that it would have been a completely different outcome if the mistakes and the bad luck didn't turn out how it did for Kansas City. And so we're going to go over the next part, which the next two big-time plays for the Chiefs, it just happens to be the two biggest plays, I think, in my opinion, just happen to be right after what happens of what I just went over. And Mecole Hardman got the crowd and everybody on his team fired up with his return for 58 yards right after that. These types of plays are why everybody should love football, okay, because it's such a wild card. Human emotion is a wild card. To be able to get the crowd and your team re-fired up on one play, one singular play, and you're still down by 24 points. You are that fired up. It's something that doesn't show up on the stat sheets. It won't be talked about widely enough because it's such a random factor that nobody can really ever predict. So that's play number 1. Play number 2, it was what happened right after that, it was a 2-play touchdown drive that was capped off by a 17-yard catch and run to Damian Williams. But the other big-time play I want to talk about, it wasn't that. It happened on the very next drive for Houston. Houston ended up going 3 and out on this drive, so they got stopped. If you're not sure you don't know what 3 and out means, basically first down, second down, third down, then they get stopped completely. Fourth down rolls around, and they usually punt the ball. So on their own 33, instead of punting it, they call a fake punt. It was a direct snap to Justin Reed, and he is then stopped short of the first down by Sorensen, okay, the linebacker, who played a huge role in this game, and I don't think he's getting talked about nearly enough. I mean, he's getting talked about, don't get me wrong. He played such a big role in this game, and I was really impressed by him. Probably one of the first times I've actually noticed the guy. So the Chiefs started their drive out on the 33, then proceeded to score once again right after that. If the fake punt works, we're calling Bill O'Brien, the coach for the Houston Texans, a genius, but a madman for doing it. But since it didn't, we call it probably one of the worst calls, if not the worst call in the entire game. And I will stop right there. I won't go over the entire game. Next, I kind of want to just talk about Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce, after his first drop in the first drive, he really played a masterful game, catching 10 balls on 12 targets while gaining 134 yards and 3 touchdowns. His route running was really the reason why he was so successful. He did use his big body to box out some of the defenders, but that really wasn't the reason why he was so good in this game. His average receiver separation was 2.91 yards, a little above the league average. So he's doing this while being, keep in mind, double and in one case, triple covered. So he's still getting separation above the league average while being probably the biggest and the best target on the entire team and still getting double and triple covered. The man who was throwing him the ball, Patrick Mahomes, always seems to amaze me every single time I watch him. He put the ball on the money in the red zone every single time, whether it was a back shoulder throw, a ball low and away, or even right in the gut of the receiver. He knew when to throw it at the perfect time and where to throw it. So the receiver is the only person who can get his hands on the ball, and most of the time, most Travis Kelce getting his hands on the ball anyways. And he's so good at throwing the ball that I really forget that he's such an incredible runner with his legs. Okay, rushing 7 times for 53 yards. That's an average of 7.5 yards per carry. His passing stats show that he's pretty efficient, having a completion percentage of 65%, a little above the league average, and a passer rating of 134.6, and the league average is 90.4, so well above average. And so I really don't have anything to talk about the Texans. It's really, they played a decent game. They did as much as they could against this explosive offense, but there's only so much you can do against them. So I think, obviously, Deshaun Watson and this team has a very bright future ahead of them, and they're going to be in the playoffs next year and many years to come after that. So, again, that's all I got for game recaps. Only one this week. I'm really sorry, you guys, But now we're going to go ahead and jump into predictions, and don't think it's going to be super in-depth like I usually am. I know I'm pretty good when it comes to analyzing the stats and the game film for the future of the games. So I did as much as I could, but we're going to jump right into it. We're going to go with the Chiefs versus the Titans, and keep in mind what I was really saying about the Chiefs in the past game for this prediction also. So my prediction is the Titans are going to win. I have to go with my dark horse that I've been going with since I started this channel. If you go back and listen, I believe it was the second episode I put out. It was basically saying, hey, it was actually the first week that Ryan Tannehill took over. I said, hey, if the Titans want to keep winning, they need to keep Tannehill in. And they kept winning. So about 1 or 2 weeks after that, I said they're my dark horse to make the playoffs completely and make a deep playoff run. I made the mistake a couple weeks ago in the wild card to go against them because they're going against the Patriots. The Patriots are the Patriots, so I was kind of iffy on it. They beat them. But then I picked them last week to beat the Ravens, and they beat them. So I'm going to go ahead and pick them again to beat the Chiefs. I got to go with them. Here's a couple reasons why. Derrick Henry has really been unstoppable since about week 10, and that happens to be the first time the Titans played the Chiefs this season. In that game, Henry rushed for 188 yards and 2 scores in a 35-32 Tennessee win. And keep in mind that Tennessee win was in Tennessee, so that's another factor in this game. Going into that game, the biggest thing the Titans had going for them was that the Chiefs sported a poor run defense, and this time around, it's not any different. Kansas City finished number 26 against the run in the regular season. They're coming off of a game in which they allowed 94 rushing yards and 4.5 yards per carry to Houston that had to go pass heavy in the second half because the Chiefs were scoring points at will, basically. And in back-to-back weeks, Henry has torched the number 5 and the number 6 run defenses for a combined 377 total yards, rushing yards that is. He doesn't really catch out of the backfield that often. 5.9 yards per carry, which the offensive line has been really helping out on that end. And outside of Derrick Henry, there is a couple newsworthy things when it comes to that. Outside of that, I should say. Inside linebacker, Jayon Brown, who is probably one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. He finished third on the team in tackles this past year. He was forced to miss the divisional round game against the Ravens because of a shoulder injury he suffered against the Patriots in the wild card round. So he looks pretty good. Looks like he's actually going to play this game. At least he's on track to actually play this game. And he actually didn't play in the Week 10 game, the first matchup between the two. So adds a little bit of an interesting storyline, I guess, to this Titans defense that is boosted up. They already won that game, but now you get an addition like Jayon Brown to the defense who wasn't there for the last meeting. Also, wide receiver Adam Humphries. He's missed the last 6 games, but he's actually got a limited session in practice on Wednesday for the first time in nearly about 2 months. He hasn't really been a huge factor for Tennessee this season, but he could be helpful in a Tennessee passing attack that hasn't really been very productive, I guess you could say, in the playoffs. But, you know, when you have Derrick Henry playing like he has, you don't really have to be super productive. And then also 2 people who are going to be playing in this game who didn't play Week 10, Corey Davis and Jarrell Casey. So they didn't play that game, and Jarrell Casey in particular had 2 big sacks in the divisional round, and he could play a big factor trying to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense. And for the record, I really don't think it's going to be it's not going to be a blowout on either end. I think it could be a close game. They both have weaknesses and they both have advantages to work for them. And I could see it going either way, but at the end of the day, I have to keep going with my gut feeling and with my earlier prediction way earlier in the year. And now we're going to move on to the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. And I want to apologize just a little bit to the Green Bay Packers. I talked a lot of crap about them last week. I wasn't a huge believer in them last week. I'm not a huge believer still, honestly, and that's why I'm going to pick the 49ers to win this game. I think this is probably the first time I've picked the 49ers since starting this podcast. I live in California. I'm not a 49ers fan, and I have to hear bang, bang, Niner gang all year long, and it's frustrating. So I guess I have resentment, but I'm finally going to lift it just for this game, and I'm going to say they're going to win. Here's a little bit why. I think big part of this is going to be play action. Play caller Kyle Shanahan really stresses defenses out with the play action passing game. It's a devastating part of the 49ers attack because Shanahan balances the run and pass game so well, and defenses have to respect the run. In the first meeting, Jimmy Garoppolo scorched the Packers for big plays off of play action, especially to the middle of the field. The 49ers get people moving the wrong way, even before the pre-snaps, which doesn't have anything to do with play action, but pre-snap too. The 49ers use motion more than any other team in the league, and it helps a lot. So if they can recognize it's man-to-man coverage, so let's go ahead and motion out my tight end, let's say from the right side to the left side, and now that middle linebacker has to go ahead and motion out a little bit to the left. Well, now you have the open field in the middle, and now they're going to attack that middle portion because that's what they've been designing the whole time. Kyle Shanahan's he's a genius. I don't like the 49ers, but Kyle Shanahan's an absolute mastermind. Going back to the play action, the Packers have to do a better job staying disciplined and reacting the right way against the play action passes on Sunday, stopping the run early, making the 49ers a little bit more one-dimensional, but I don't think it's going to help because the play action is effective for the 49ers no matter how well the run is or isn't working. I don't think it's going to help even if they stop the run. And next, I just want to talk about the Niners in general. They've been strong on both sides of the ball. They're fourth in total offense, second in scoring. They put up 29.9 points per game. And while on defense, they're second in yards allowed, eighth in points allowed. They give up 19.4 points per game. And they really have been devastating at home, going 7-2 this season. And they kind of have the psychological edge after beating the Packers 37-8. Back in November. They absolutely clobbered them. Everybody thought it was going to be a pretty good game of the week, and they were up 23-0 at half. So it wasn't that close. That's it, you guys. That's all I have for you. Once again, 49ers this weekend, I don't think it's going to be close. Titans this weekend, I do think it will be close. I went over the game recap for the Chiefs and the Titans. I will go over both these games this week, and I will give you I think that's all I'm going to give you this week. This next coming week, I'm only going to give you game recaps. So I might put that out a little earlier than I'm used to. But for the Super Bowl predictions itself, that's going to be a separate video. I don't think it's going to be exactly a podcast video like this. I think it's going to be a full-on YouTube video. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. And the last thing I want to talk about is if you want to support me or if you want to know how to support me, the best way to support me, because I'm a small creator, is to like the video. If you like the video, don't just like it because I said so. Say something down below, something about what I said. Just comment down below. We can have a discussion. It gets more interactiveness with the channel, and it kind of encourages people to also comment. Some people don't want to be the first people to comment on a YouTube video. So if you want to help support me, be the first one to comment. Hit subscribe if you want to keep up with my journey here on YouTube. And share the video if you want to get it more exposure, more eyes on it. And one last thing, if you're listening to audio only on Spotify or Stitcher, then you are missing out on other content on YouTube. You're missing out on player breakdown, and you're missing out on other content like Quick Hits. Quick Hits is a little series I do where I talk about breaking news. I've talked about the Cowboys. I've talked about Luke Kuechly recently. That was my past video. And if you guys haven't checked out that video, go ahead and check it out. And I will leave links down in the description for Spotify and Stitcher. So if you want to listen to it, to my podcast in the gym or on your way home from work or at work itself, then you go ahead and plug in your headphones, listen to it, lock your phone actually, instead of having to keep your phone open the whole time on YouTube. I know how frustrating that one can get. But that's all I have for you guys today. Sorry about the short video. Once again, I love you guys. Peace.